Well, hello again and welcome back to my garage. Today we've got quite an exciting little job. We're going to fit the Hitchcocks free-flowing stainless steel exhaust system, which comprises of the new stainless steel silencer, a mounting bracket, a removable baffle which goes in the end should you wish to use that, and the stainless steel downpipe, which has the fitting for the oxygen sensor. He has another little ferrule which goes inside to the exhaust port, a clamp to go to the silencer, and a new compression washer for the exhaust port. To do this job today, we will potentially be taking the seat off, removing the tank in order to get into the connection for the oxygen sensor, removing the oxygen sensor from the front of the bike, removing the clamp bolt on the exhaust header, and there are two bolts here and here to take the whole system off. My plan is to take the whole system off in one piece and not strip it at all, so should I have to put it back on the bike at some point, it'll just go straight back on. So we'll get on and basically remove the seat first. Well, to remove the seat, I've already removed the two nuts and the bolts that hold the seat in. It's a case of slipping these two bolts out of the seat bracket, these two here. I just pull the seat back slightly to release it, and then basically push the springs in, and the springs clip off with the seat. Excellent. If you want to know how to fit these springs in my method, watch one of my earlier videos. So, we want to either remove the tank or raise it enough to see if we can get enough in to actually disconnect the oxygen sensor. Basically it's a 10mm bolt and an 8mm here, so we'll just take this bolt out. Come on, hopefully we can raise it enough to get into that sensor. Put a towel in there so I don't damage the tank in any way. I was away for a few minutes there figuring out how to do this, and it wasn't really that easy to get to the oxygen sensor connection without taking the tank off. So basically what I've done is I've raised the back of the tank up. I had a big socket which is sitting there just to raise it up, which I could raise it up far enough. I've disconnected the fuel line on this side, and also there's a multi-pin socket beside that for the fuel pump, etc. in the tank. And there's also two other rubber pipes that come from the tank as well. So I've disconnected them. So basically now it's just a case of lifting the tank off, which should be easy enough. It should just slide off now. Come on, off you go. That's it. That's the tank away. So, now we've got the tank off. This one's the fuel connection. And to actually get it off, there's two wee indentations. You just press these in and it releases the clamp. But the trick is to actually, not just to pull it off, but to actually press it in and push it forward as if you're trying to connect it, and it tends to release the clip slightly, and then it does come away. And in beside that, there's a multi-pin plug, which plugs into the bottom of the tank as well, on the fuel side. And there's these two rubber pipes that go onto the tank. And you don't actually have to worry which one goes where, because they're both of different internal diameter, so you can't really get it wrong. So they will basically go on back on the tank. So that actually came off pretty damn easily actually. So now, we're in a position of where to disconnect the oxygen sensor. And this is the wire here that goes up around, and I believe this is where it goes into, this connector here. Some people don't do this, but to me this is a way of getting to know the bike as well, like taking things apart. Okay, there's one wee cable tie at the front here, which is holding that in. I'll cut that off. I'll replace that cable tie. Yes, that's it. The cable for the sensor is now free. can see that's the cable coming off the oxygen sensor up to this connector here. That's it, that's off there. And that lets it slip off, that's easy. Just on the side here, there's a wee tag there that just pops down. So that's the oxygen sensor now free. But personally, it's good to actually find out how you can take your bike apart and you can see how everything is put together. It's a way of getting to know your own bike. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to unscrew the oxygen sensor. I'd rather do it just now while it's on the bike. So now basically I'm going to use the 17mm spanner and pretty easy, unscrew the oxygen sensor from the exhaust. And there we have it, that's the oxygen sensor off the bike. There's a wee washer in there, be careful you don't lose that as well as to go back on. And the next stage is to remove the exhaust collar. There's domed nuts on it, so I'm using a deep socket to get into that. So basically I'll remove these two bolts. That's those two domed nuts off. Maybe that's not going to come off yet until I remove the other bolts. The next one to take off is this bolt here that holds basically the catalytic converter on. A bolt. So this one is basically a bolt with a funny wee washer on it. So the last bit to do is this last bolt, this last nut down here. And there's again, that's another 12mm, and there is a nut on the back of that one. And that on the back of it, which is a wee bit awkward to get into. That's it away. The nut off. That's the nut that comes off the back, 12mm. So basically, there's nothing actually holding on the exhaust now. So I should now be able to just lift the whole exhaust system off by pulling this bolt out, and that's it. The whole exhaust is now off the bike. And now I'm free to take this collar off as well. Okay, the next job was to get the old crush washer out of the port. I used a screwdriver and I basically prised it in, and I could force it out. It actually came out fairly easily. And as you can see, what actually comes out is fairly, I mean, I've damaged it now, but it's been well crushed. This is actually the new one, so you can actually see the difference between the old and the new. So I think it's worthwhile to stick the new crush washer in the port. And it's hopefully going to stay there just now. Yeah. Okay, now we're going to, basically we're going to put in the new exhaust pipe, which will be sliding in here. There is an insert here which goes into the pipe there, and we have to also put this securing bracket on. located in. Yeah, that seems to be it. Sitting nicely into the port. Tighten it up. I'm not going to tighten it fully just now. Tighten it up a wee bit, just so there's a wee bit of movement in it. Oops, sorry, not my gun. Still a bit, it's tight, it's not going to move, but it's not fully tightened. It still gives me a wee bit of movement on it. So yeah, that's the how to mount it at this point. So the next stage is basically to fit the silencer. Obviously you put it on the side of the slots because that's covered by the clamp, which will compress onto the pipe here. And so we want to basically put the clamp in. The clamp will sit at the bottom. We want the nut to be at this side. So that's there. So you basically slide the exhaust on to the pipe. And slip the original bolt that came out from here in and put the nut on the back. A wee bit of movement on it. I think it looks better if it's at the top side of it. Push it so it's right up to the top. Gotta support that one with my leg a wee bit so it doesn't drop down. So that sits centrally in that bracket here, that base bracket. That's a good idea, that's fine. 2 nuts on the back of this sliding bracket. So there's 2 bolts on the hold that one are tight. I might actually now tighten up these header pipes to 12 newtons, and then the final bit I'll tighten will be the joint here. I'll set the torque range to 12 newtons and I'll tighten this up just evenly on both sides, a wee bit at a time. Obviously it's quite a soft crush washer in there, so that's going to take up any so that should be that clamped up properly. So basically cover the slots and just keep it level and tighten. Be plenty. Check it once it's running. But yeah, feels solid. Still now a wee bit is there. That looks a wee bit untidy here. So what I'm going to do is basically put that bolt back in there, and that'll be a kind of finisher. Unfortunately, I need to put a nut on the back of it because the silencer mounting there has a fixing on the bracket. So I'll get a nut for that. Nut in the washer, and it just tidies it up. I'll tighten this up. That looks better than a hole. So the next stage is to refit the oxygen sensor. And remember the wee sealing washer that's on there. Make sure you haven't lost that's in place. Basically we'll offer the sensor up through there and screw it in to the exhaust pipe using 17mm spanner. That's it. Now, when I took this out, it wasn't very tight, so obviously just to be nipped up and no more, and that's it. You don't have to go crazy tightening it up. So that's plenty, I would say. And basically it wound its way up around here. There's cable tied in with these wires. This wee mounting here just slides onto this wee lug up here. That's it, in, and then you just basically bang the plug back in, snap that back in. So that's it, that's the lambda sensor now connected back up. I'll replace the cable tie that was made through a wee hole in this side. We've now fitted the exhaust. All that needs to be done now is to refit the tank and the seat, and we're pretty much finished. So that's what we'll do now, is to put the tank on, which again, it's a basic case of offering up the tank. Onto the front lugs. And basically lift it back up again so you can see inside. Fully on. So use the socket just to support the tank there. Pop the electrical connector on. That's the electrical connection back on, and this wee rubber shroud. And the pedal pipe, all you do is basically just push it back on. If you compress the lugs back in and push it back on, make sure it's fully seated in. That's it, back on. Take that away and lower, mounting back into position. The next stage is to put the wee seat bolt back in again. Tighten up the bolt here, and that's the tank back on nicely. Stick the seat back on, and we'll give it a wee taste. I'm going to do a couple of sound tests. I did a wee sound test this morning. I've not actually been out in it because the weather's horrible today. It's raining outside, it's not nice at all. But I did a wee sound test before I started. I'm going to do another couple of sound tests just now as well, in the same fashion as I did the first one. So we've got some kind of, be able to compare the noise levels, so I'll put the three of them roughly together so you'll be able to kind of see them individually. But one of the tests will be without the baffle, and another test will be with this baffle here, which basically is bolted in to the back of the pipe. So at the moment I have no idea whether I'm going to run it with the baffle or without the baffle. I'll have to get it out on the road really, in the real world, and see what she's like. So anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you've enjoyed my attempts at fitting the free-flowing exhaust. Anyway, for now, thanks for watching. We'll see you again in my garage. Bye for now.